Welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here today as we encounter a deeper understanding of the rising cost of healthcare in the US. Now, before we get started, I'd like to ask you all a question that has been on my mind these last couple of weeks. Is quality healthcare in the US a luxury or a right? At this moment, you may already be contemplating your answer, but I'd like to see if the data given has altered your perception. Many years ago, former politician Dave Obey made a remark that seems to appear more relevant every day. The official said, "Experience taught me that working families are often just one paycheck away from economic disaster, and it showed me firsthand the importance of every family having access to quality and affordable healthcare." Now, I'm sure we all can agree, healthcare in the US, cost of healthcare in the US continues to rise at an aggressive rate, as it has been for the last few decades. And with no universal healthcare system in effect, more than 47 million Americans are without health insurance and cannot afford even the most basic of care. Now, am I supposed to believe the costs are parallel to the resources we receive? I think not. In 2014, an elderly couple in Washington committed suicide with several notes citing previous medical expenses, many of which were extortionate. In 2016, 20-year-old Jerome Rogers took his own life in response to the pressure of his mounting medical debt well above his means to pay. But the purpose of this argument is not to desolate you or even come up with the right solution, because as we see it, one does not exist, but rather to address what is not working in the system. When it comes to the endless debate about healthcare in the US, there's no shortage of opinions on why it is so expensive. And yet there are loads of theories about why healthcare spending per capita is nearly double in the US compared to other nations with similar economies around the world. Many experts believe the general reason for higher healthcare costs is overutilization of services. It's commonly believed Americans overuse the healthcare system, and the same applies with doctors who practice defensive medicine by prescribing unnecessary tests and hospitalizations to people who don't really need it just to avoid a lawsuit. But it's not just tests and inpatient confinement America worries about when it comes to price. Let's take a look at the flourishing industry of pharmaceuticals, for instance. The pharmaceutical industry has one of the highest profit margins of any industry group, and still, the prices of prescription drugs in the US are by far the highest in the world. But truth being told, medications can actually do wonderful things, from fighting off infections to preventing stroke and even warding off psychological disorders. But it's a given. Medications do not work if they're not taken. Most often people forget or they're afraid of the side effects, but have you ever considered cost being a major factor in why millions of Americans go without their essential medications? What's unclear about the situation to me is how pharmaceutical companies are charging patients $100,000, $200,000, or even $500,000 a year just for drugs, many of which are not even curative. Let's take a look at abiraterone, for instance. Abiraterone is a drug used to treat prostate cancer. The FDA initially approved it in 2011 to treat patients who failed to respond to previous chemotherapies. Abiraterone does not cure the disease, but instead increase life on average by just 4 months. And even at its lowest price, it can cost around $120,000 a year. As disturbing as these facts are, we should be even more troubled by the fact that the solutions most commonly being considered for our access, cost, and quality of care are unlikely to solve these issues and may in fact exacerbate them. And so, I ask you again, is quality healthcare in the US a luxury or a fundamental right? I'll let you decide. Thank you.